Okay, so let's start. Maybe others can join slowly. Let me pull up the screen. So this was the last question where we stopped. So before actually going into the solution of this question in particular, is there any doubts on from anybody regarding the concept that we did in the last class? Zero sum games. मतलब क्या है, solve कैसे करना है, or any of that regarding anything? Any questions on those parts? Okay. And I presume all of you have understood at least the basic mechanism. So maybe now we can get back to this question where we left it off. Did any of you give it a try? क्या आ रहा है?
Yes, sir.
हाँ. What is it coming, Harshita? Are you getting anything?
Answer is 5.
Okay. And what is the optimal strategy like corresponding to that? Achha, two fives. Which one are you referring to? That's also
It's a
important.
B2 and A2.
B. Once more, Harshita. Which one?
B2 and A2.
B2 and A. This one, right? Okay. This one. How does if, uh, get to this answer, or should I just solve it?
Sir, solve it, please.
Okay, I couldn't hear you, Hina. Can you repeat once? Like, what do you say?
Sir, I said please solve it.
Okay, let's do this once more. I need to write it once. Just a minute. Yeah. Just give me 1 minute. ये दोबारा मुझे लिखना होगा. There were three, right? One, two, and there are four. What was the name of the strategies that I mentioned? कोई जरा देख के बता सकता है? Just by looking at the earlier notes. What was that?
Some max min.
नहीं. Like, what was the strategies of the two
Maximum
players? क्या
row
mainly?
mean is equal to minimum. Oh, sorry.
It was
A,
some
B, B.
A1,
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 A2,
what was
A3,
A1, A2, A3, and player 2 का क्या क्या
B1,
strategies था?
B2, B1, B2, B3, B4.
B3, B4. And can you just repeat the payoff matrix? I've forgotten the figures. क्या था?
So 9, 6, 7,
9, column wise.
6, yes, sir.
9, 6, 7,
2, 5, 3,
2, 5, 3,
19, 7, 4,
19, 7, 4,
5, 16, 10.
5, 16, 10.
10.
Okay. So this is the player A and player B. So this is the payoff matrix of player 1 or player A. So this is zero sum game. So this is the payoff matrix of A. The first step is to calculate the row minimums and the column maximums. Okay. So the first row comes out to be 2, second row 5, third row 3. Coming to the columns, maximum, the first one would be 9, then it would be 5, then it would be 19, then it would be 60, right? Now you want to maximize over the row min, तो वो कहाँ पे मिल रहा है आपको? This is the maximum, and you will minimize over the column maximum. तो minimum कहाँ पे मिल रहा है? This one. So the answer is that maximum of row minimum is equals to minimum of column maximum. Therefore, optimal exists. As you found out by the min-max strategy. और optimal क्या है? Player 1 will go for optimizing of choosing the strategy A2, and player B will go in for choosing his strategy B2. So what is the optimal strategy profile? That's the ultimate answer. It is A2, comma B2. Okay. Any questions from anybody? ये method समझ आ गया आपको? How are we getting to this? Okay. Now coming to the most important question that we haven't answered till date. Why is this method working? Yeah, why are we actually using this method for zero sum game? Let's take some time to understand this. So it is the intuitive explanation of the min-max strategy. Let me write down the two settings. Player 1 is the row player, and player 2 is the column player. Pi 1, let pi 1 denote the payoff matrix of player 1, and pi 2 denote the payoff matrix of player 2. And for a zero sum game, pi 2 is nothing but minus pi 1. Hence, it is sufficient to consider only pi 1. Okay. Now coming back to this particular example that we took, can someone please tell me कि player 1 का highest payoff amongst everything that you can see on this matrix क्या है?
19.
19. And how can player 1 get a 19? If player 1 plays A1 and player 2 plays B3, correct? Player 1's optimal target would always be to get to this 19, right? Because that is the highest amongst everything. So he would always have an intention to kind of manipulate or force player 2 to play B3, such that the moment he plays B3, usko pata hai in optimal he should play A1 and he will get a 19, right? But think rationally that player 2 being a rational player, will he play B3? Yes or no? क्या लगता है आपको? If you can reply.
No, because he will get a payoff of minus 19.
Exactly. and that is the worst payoff for him, right? Higher the
Yes.
payoff value in this matrix, lower is the payoff value in player two's matrix. So under no conditions will being player 2 being a rational player would have any intention to play b3, because usko pata hai the moment he chooses to play b3, player 1 would definitely go for playing a1 and he would end up badly in the game, right? So the logic or the underlying psychology of this game is that both players want to choose a strategy such that दूसरे वाले को सबसे ज्यादा लॉस हो, correct? Player one always wants to player one will always intend to choose a strategy such that player two gets the minimum possible payoff, and player two will always will do the same. All right, now think from the perspective of player one. Let us start with that, going step by step. Player one क्या कर रहा है, or what we have actually done, we have taken the row mins and we have taken the maximum of the row mins, right? That's what we have done for player one. So for player one, the strategy is something like this. Strategy is decided by maximum of the row minimums. Right? This is what we have done. Now think, player one, when he'll take a decision of which strategy to play, he knows in the background that player two always has the intention to give him the least possible payoff, or to play the strategy that gives player one the least possible payoff. Right? So think of this thing. If player 1 decides to play a1, he will see that which combination is giving him the least possible payoff, because that is what player 2 will be induced to pay, right? Can you understand this? Can you reply with a yes or no if you understood? Player 1 now analyzes that if he plays a1, player 2 का क्या response होगा? He will definitely go in for choosing a strategy that gives player 1 the minimum possible payoff. और वो क्या होगा? b2, that is giving him 2, right? Correct. Is it okay with all of you? Any questions on this? Similarly, if player 1 chooses a2, he will do the same analysis. If I play a2, what would be player two's optimal response? He would go in for choosing the one that gives player 1 the least possible payoff. Correct. So that makes it giving him 5. And similarly for a3. That means having accounted for player two's behavior, we get to this row minimum column. जहाँ पे player one has understood that okay, if I play a1, then this is the this is the worst case scenario that I might get. If I play a2, then 5 would be the worst case scenario that I would get, and if I play a3, then I would get 3. Now what would player one's response be? He would try to get the maximum out of this minimums, because now he having accounted for player 2 ka behavior kaisa hoga, now he has to decide on what he should do. So now, having obtained the row minimums, he will be trying to get to the maximum possible payoff out of these minimums. And that is why player 1 is choosing the maximum of these row minimums, and that is becoming his optimal strategy. Okay. I request all of you to reply with a yes or no if you understood what I just said, or you lost me somewhere.
Yes, sir.
Others?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, if you just think, we are using only player one's payoff matrix to get to the optimal strategy of player two as well. तो player one के केस में हम लोग जो कर रहे हैं, we will just do the exact opposite for player two, because everything is opposite, right? The highest payoff 19 would be the least payoff for player two, so everything is opposite. So instead of finding the minimums at first, we would be finding the maximums, And then out of the maximums, we would be finding the minimum. Correct? Logically making sense to all of you. Any questions? Whatever we are doing for player one, the exact opposite thing we would be doing for player two. Okay, fine. And therefore, player two's optimal strategy is to have a minimum out of the row maximums. Sorry, column maximums. And अगर ये दो strategies कहीं पे match करते हैं, then that is the equilibrium or the optimal strategy profile that we are looking for. If they don't match, that means you will not have a direct optimal strategy profile. If they do match, then you are getting one. Okay, is it fine with all of you? Any questions on this? Okay, so I think we can take this as a no from all of you. You all have understood this. So let us now write this down in brief. It's a long story, so we need to cut it short. So let us start with that. Player one. So let me just write down for player one. I think the opposite one we need not repeat again. Player one knows that player two would always play a strategy that gives him the least possible payoff. Therefore, for each of his strategies, he first takes note of the response of player 2 by noting the minimum payoff corresponding to each row. Right? Now, the best response of player 1 would be to choose that strategy that gives the highest possible payoffs out of these minimums obtained earlier. Thus, optimal strategy for player 1 is obtained by by solving rather the maximum of the row minimums. Okay, player 2 being a column player, sorry, let me just rephrase this, it's not making sense. To find the optimal strategy of player 2 using the payoff matrix of player 1, we will proceed in the opposite way as compared to that of player 1. Therefore, optimal strategy for player 2 is obtained obtained by solving minimum of column maximums. If max of row min is equals to minimum of column max, then optimal strategy profile exists. Okay, I'll just take a pause for a few seconds for all of you to copy this down. It's a long explanation. And do let me know if you need to scroll up the screen or something to look at any missed parts. Is it fine with all of you? Any questions? All right. So maybe I can presume that all of you have understood this. So now let us move on to the next part, which is the principle of dominance. So basically, we are going through two methods. The first one is the Nash equilibrium for obtaining the optimal set of strategies. The second method is this min max max min thing, which is applicable for zero sum games. And then the final thing that we have in our syllabus is the principle of dominance. Okay. Before going into any formal definition or something like that, let me just give start with an example. The example is very much relevant in telecom industry, like we discussed in the starting. Something like, let's say there are two firms and both of them are engaged in a price war kind of thing. All right, that who what price to set. They have three things and they want to decide on what to do. So let me just draw a payoff matrix so that we can analyze this game. So there are two firms, let's say one and two. There are three options to set a high price, or set a medium price, or set a low price. And similarly, form 2 also has the same options: high, medium, and low. Corresponding to this is not a zero sum game. Something like this: the payoffs are 6, comma 6, 0, comma 10, 0, comma 8, 10, comma 0, 5, comma 5, 0, comma 8, 8, comma 0, 8, comma 0, 4, comma 4. Okay, so the question is that consider two firms, one and two, engaged in a price war. We want to find the optimal strategy profile. So this is not a zero sum game. You all can understand by looking at this example only. So we will obviously proceed with a similar idea of the Nash equilibrium. So let us go step by step. If you fix player two's strategy to implement high price, can someone tell me what should player one or firm one do? What should be his optimal decision?
The medium.
Medium. If player two chooses to play medium, then what will happen?
Low.
Low. And if player two chooses to play low, then what are we expecting?
Low.
Low. Okay. So basically, depending upon what player two will do, he will either go for medium or low, right? That is the combination that we are getting. Now, tell me one thing. If I say that no matter which strategy player two applies, player one will never play high. Is it a correct statement?
Yes, sir.
Others, can you all please reply with a yes or a no if you understood what I just said?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Others, if all of you can just reply at this stage, it would be really helpful.
सर मुझे नहीं समझा.
Okay, let's repeat. Is the process clear, Hina? Like how we decided on this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So basically, what you can see, if player two chooses to implement high price, player one's response will be to go for medium. If player two decides on medium, player one will choose low. And if player two chooses low, player one will also go for low. So whatever player two does, he has three options: high, medium, low. Player one will either go for medium or low, right? That is what we are seeing. He will never choose to play high. Correct.
Right.
That
Got it.
means no matter what player two does, क्यों कोई भी strategy क्यों ना वो ले ले, player one will never choose to play high. That means for player one, high is a dominated strategy. He will never choose that. So if the strategy is dominated, it will never appear in the optimal, right? So the crux of the matter is, if it is a dominated strategy, he will never play. तो इस रो को आप कहानी से हटा दो from your calculation. That's the simple thing. Okay, this is the principle of dominance, that you will basically eliminate the dominated strategies of both the players to get to the optimal if it exists. Okay, अब ये सेम एक्सरसाइज हम प्लेयर टू के पर्सपेक्टिव से देखते हैं. So we will fix the strategy of player one at a time. First row is out of the story. Okay, now coming to player two. If we fix the strategy of player one at medium, then what should be the optimal response of player two? Anyone?
Low.
Low. Correct. And if we fix player one strategy at low, then player two का optimal क्या होना चाहिए?
Low.
Low. That means no matter what player one chooses, medium or low, player two will always play low. That means for player two, high and medium are dominated strategies. Could all of you follow this? तो ये दो columns आपका out of the story.
Sir, I don't understand.
Which part, Amrita? The last explanation?
सर ये जो लास्ट टू कॉलम्स को कट किए हैं वो.
हाँ, क्यों किए, right? That's the question. So go back now.
Yes, sir.
तो हम वो फर्स्ट वाला रो कैसे कट किए वो आपको समझ आया था? Was that clear to you,
Yes,
अमृता?
sir.
ओके, तो वो कैसे
Yes,
किए
sir.
थे? प्लेयर टू का स्ट्रेटेजी फिक्स कर करके प्लेयर वन को ऑप्टिमल देख के किए थे. नाउ वील डू द अदर वे अराउंड. प्लेयर वन का स्ट्रेटेजी फिक्स करके प्लेयर टू का ऑप्टिमल देखेंगे. इट हैज टू बी बोथ वेज. सो द फर्स्ट रो इज आउट. So the first thing that you will do is fix the strategy of player one as medium. तो अगर आप वो करते हो, then player two को optimal response क्या होगा? Check that. It is coming out to be low. Right, Amrita? Making sense?
Yes, sir.
And similarly, if you fix player one ka strategy as low, then what is the optimal? It's again low. Correct? Therefore, can I say that no matter what player one chooses to play, player two will never play high and medium. Right? He's always playing low. High or medium to choose ही नहीं कर रहे. That means for player two, high and medium are dominated strategies. Okay? Is it fine? इसीलिए मैंने वो दो कॉलम आउट कर दिए.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so maybe जिससे आप लोगों को confusion ना हो जाए, let me just put some numberings over here. This black one is the first out and these two are the second ones जो out हुए story से. So now we have two cells remaining. Now again the same process to be repeated. You fix the strategy of player 2 as low. Then what will player 1 do? Anyone? What will player
Sir,
1 do? Yes, someone was saying something.
low, sir.
Low. That means he will not play medium in that case. So in this third round, medium is becoming a dominated strategy. So this column is also out. The third set of cancellations. So क्या बचा? Low and low. This is the optimal. Now you can cross check once. You fix the strategy of player 2 to be low and found the optimal of player 1 as low. If you do the other way around, if you fix the strategy of player 2 to be low, player 1 to be low, then player 2 का response क्या होगा? Given everything is cancelled out, he'll pay low only. So this is the optimal. Okay. I'll request all of you to reply with a yes or no if you understood how we got to this. Is the method clear? कैसे करना है? Any questions on this? So what are you doing? In every step, you are basically eliminating the dominated strategies, right? So this method of finding the optimal is known as iterative elimination of dominated strategy. Should I give you a written description of how we got to this, like the description of the method, how we solve this, or is it fine? समझ आ जाएगा.
Sir, just tell us what you said in the last line. Which method, which strategy?
This method that we used in this case is known as iterative elimination of dominated strategies. This is the method that we're using. Okay.
सर सर
Yes.
थोड़ा ब्रीफ दे दीजिए कि इन केस एग्जाम में ऐसा क्वेश्चन है तो उसका एक्सप्लेनेशन कैसे लिखना है. तो एग्जाम में तो पूरा एक एक स्टेप में एक्सप्लेन करना होगा ना हम लोगों को.
Okay. Like the explanation would be very specific to the example. So let us take this example and explain this out. ठीक है?
यस सर.
The rest, I think you all will be able to understand. So by following the method of dominance, we first start by fixing the strategy, not the, maybe wrong English, by fixing a strategy for player 2 and finding the optimal for player 1. Okay. We observe that player 1 never chooses high. That is, no matter what player 2 does, player 1 will never play high. Hence, high is a dominated strategy for player 1 as indicated by 1. Now, we then fix the strategy of player 1 and try to observe the optimal response of player 2. No matter what player 1 chooses, player 2 never plays high and medium. So high and medium are dominated strategies of player 2, hence removed. As indicated by 2. Now again, fixing strategy of player 2, we obtain medium as the dominated strategy of player 1, as shown by 3. Hence, by iterative elimination of dominated strategies, we get the optimal strategy profiled as low, low. Okay. Any questions from anyone? All right. So let us solve one more question. Maybe this time you all can tell me how to proceed. So the question is, solve the game by principle of dominance. So let us draw the payoff matrix. Player 2 will have 2 strategies. Player 1 will have 3. Okay. So Let's say I name them as A, B, A1, A2, A3, B1, B2. So the profiles are 1, comma 1, 0, comma 1, 0, comma 2, 1, comma 0, 0, comma minus 1, and 0, comma 0. So can someone please tell me how do we start this? कैसे करेंगे?
So first fix the strategy of player B as B1 and
Yes.
see what A will choose. A will choose A1,
Yes.
and by fixing B2, A will choose A2.
A2. So therefore, any conclusions from this step?
So A3 is eliminated.
From player 1. So first part. Second, anyone? अगला step क्या होगा?
So
Next
may
step?
I?
Yes, Harshita.
So player A, fix strategy of player A as A1, and
Yes.
player B will choose either of the two strategies,
Okay, so दोनों के नीचे एक line लगा लेते हैं.
and by fixing A2, player B will choose B1.
Okay. B1. Right. Okay. So over here it might be since A1 player 1 choose करने पे he's indifferent. So if he chooses B1, then this might become the dominated strategy, right? Possibly, because we are indifferent. So it might be possible. So what we'll do is that ये eliminate करने के बाद देखेंगे कि whether we are getting to optimal or not. If yes, then this elimination makes sense. Otherwise not. Okay. Next step.
So by fixing B1, A will choose A1, so A2 will get
Harshita,
eliminated.
I can't hear you. Probably there is some issue. Someone else might want to give it a try. What would be the next step?
So fixing the B1 strategy, the player A will choose the A1 strategy. So the optimal will be A1 and B1.
One is that. Hold on, we will try. Back to the six. Probably now I can hear you. Can someone please unmute? Like there were some answers that I couldn't hear. Maybe if you can repeat once. What would be the next step?
So fixing the B1 strategy, the player A will choose A1. So the optimal we will get is A1 and B1.
Okay, so this becomes a eliminated. So after this, the third round, we get to this. So the optimal turns out to be A1, B1. Now note one thing. Can I say A1 is the dominant strategy of player 1? Dominates others. And similarly, B1 is the dominant strategy of player 2. Okay, making sense? Now, there is one very important thing that you all must know. This was a simple game, so it could have been solved by finding out the Nash equilibrium also, right? We could have applied that. Max min method couldn't have been applied because this is not a zero-sum game. So the important thing is that if there exists a Nash equilibrium, then it is implied that dominant strategies exist, but not the other way around. Okay. All right. This is a very crucial thing. Maybe we can take some examples in the next class, but just keep note of this. All right. So that's it for today, everyone. Any other questions from anybody? Okay. So I presume. Thank you. You all can disconnect. Harshita, just wait for a moment. We can discuss that and then. Yeah. So Harshita, like what the exact question is that you want to know about the Okun's law, right?
Yes, sir. Phillips curve and Okun's law.
Okay. So like आपको समझ नहीं आ रहा कि वो इक्वेशंस कैसे आ रहे हैं या उसका मतलब क्या है? इज दैट द क्वेश्चन?
यस सर, वो जो लेबर मार्केट में इक्वेशंस हैं वो समझ नहीं आ रही. फिलिप्स कर्व का बेसिक आइडिया क्लियर है, लाइक देयर इज एग्जिस्ट इनवर्स रिलेशन इन्फ्लेशन अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट एंड लॉन्ग रन में वो वर्टिकल स्ट्रेट लाइन होती है.
Okay. So Harshita, maybe I can just show you a little bit brief कि वो कैसे आ रहा है. Maybe that might clear. And मैं तुमको और एक टेक्निक थोड़ा दिखा देता हूँ. You don't need much of the labor market equations in that. Okay, without using that also, we can get to that. All right.
ओके सर.
Just give me a minute. Let me just grab water का पानी bottle. Is the screen coming, Harshita?
यस सर.
Okay. तो आपका Okun's law is what? It's basically, let me just write that down in short. Okun's law is the relationship between GDP and unemployment, right?
Yes, sir.
GDP, which is Y, and unemployment, which is U. And what does it say? कि अगर तुम्हारा GDP बढ़ता है, then unemployment should fall. That means there is a negative relation, right? Two things to confirm, Harshita. Are you aware of the full employment level of output? इसका मतलब
So full employment means natural rate of unemployment.
yes. When U equals to UN, then you have the full employment level of output. So I use these notations. Y bar is the full employment level of output, and UN is the natural rate of unemployment. Okay. Therefore, Okun's law is basically giving you a negative relation. So can I write y minus y bar equals to minus of alpha times u minus un, where alpha is positive? If output is more than the natural rate, then what do you have? You have a demand push inflation. So u should be lesser than un. Correct? समझ आया ये
Yes.
वाला? So something like this is what Okun's law is telling you, right? And are you familiar with the idea of adaptive expectations? समझ दिया?
No, sir.
कोई नहीं. Okay, let me just write down a small expression.
सर अडेप्टिव एक्सपेक्टेशंस लाइक अपनी एक्सपेक्टेशंस को अडेप्ट करना प्रीवियस ईयर के देख के.
Exactly, something like that. It is. It has a technical representation. Let's not go into that. आप उसको logically एक बार समझ लो. Suppose PE represents the expected price level. ठीक है? Therefore, how will your short run aggregate supply look like? It would be something like y minus y bar equals to beta times p minus p bar, where beta is positive. ठीक है? इसका मतलब समझो हर्षिता. If today the price that you observe is greater than your expected price that you had, then you will produce output more than y bar. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So that means there is a positive relation. So this is basically the expected expectation incorporated short-term aggregate supply. ठीक है? Because when you're talking of the Phillips curve, there arises the question of expected inflation and stuff like that. So for that, you need to have this expected price in the system. Ki people have some expectations that they incorporate, and their behavior is dictated by that. So P greater than PE implies Y greater than Y star. So this is how the short-term aggregate supply looks like. All right. Now, if I just put some time subscripts, Harshita, कहाँ लगेंगे? Okun's law वाली equation में it would be yt minus y bar equals to minus alpha times ut minus un. Correct? और short term aggregate supply में कहाँ लगेंगे? Yt minus y bar equals to beta times pt minus price expected in period t. Okay? समझ आया?
Yes, sir.
At a point in time. Now, if I ask you, how do you define inflation? आपको पता है ये वाली चीज? If I ask you, how do you write out? Inflation का मतलब क्या होता है? Pi t, suppose.
Increase in prices.
Yeah,
PT, PT minus.
increase in price. So it's something like PT minus PT minus 1, right? That's what it is. Okay. Although there are others, but I don't want to complicate the calculation for you, so let's stick to this. If I ask you, what about the expected inflation? It would have some notation like this: by expected in the period T. So that would be the expected price in period T minus the actual price, because T minus 1 period में क्या price था, you know. You need not take the expectation there,
Yes, sir.
right? So this is how you would define them, right? So now we want to derive the Phillips curve with all these information in the background. Phillips curve क्या है? It's the relationship between inflation and unemployment. Inflation and unemployment. So basically, there are two things. One is this equation, Okun's law, and one other is this one. So let me write them down once more. Okun's law क्या था? Yt minus y bar equals to alpha times ut minus un minus alpha times ut minus un, alpha positive, and ये वाला aggregate supply is yt minus y bar equals to beta times pt minus price expected in period t, where beta is positive. इन दोनों इक्वेशन से क्या मैं लिख सकता हूँ? माइनस अल्फा टाइम्स ut minus un is equals to beta times pt minus pt.
Yes,
Possible?
sir.
Bringing the beta down, minus alpha by beta ut minus un is equals to pt minus pt. ठीक है? Let us denote this by theta. So ut minus un. So this would be. Now observe this one. क्या मैं यहाँ पे एक छोटा manipulation कर सकता हूँ? Subtract the price in the previous period in this format. Making sense? क्या किया?
So,
Add, subtract. And over here, your theta equals to alpha by beta, which is positive. This basically becomes minus theta ut minus un. What is this quantity? Expect the actual inflation in period T. And what is this? Is the
expected
expected
inflation.
inflation. So what do you get? Pi t equals to pi expected in period T minus theta times ut minus un. Phillips curve. ठीक है?
Yes, sir.
Now there is one more variant. Not necessary कि हमेशा question ऐसे आएगा, but you must know that if today's expected inflation is fully explained by the inflation in the previous period, then your Phillips curve simply becomes this. Right? बस ठीक है. अगर आपको समझना है कि एग्जाम में कोई क्वेश्चन दिया रहा है तो कौन सा डालना है, इट डिपेंड्स अपॉन कौन सा वैल्यू दिया रहेगा, राइट? अगर पाई टी माइनस 1 दिया है तो आपको सेकंड वाला फॉर्मेट यूज करना है, और अगर एक्सपेक्टेड इन्फ्लेशन का कुछ फिगर्स दिया हुआ है देन फर्स्ट वाला. ठीक है?
Okay, sir.
दैट्स द आइडिया. एग्रीगेट सप्लाई इज बेसिकली कैप्चरिंग आपका सब लेबर मार्केट इक्वेशंस एंड ऑल दैट. ठीक है, जिसका डेरिवेशन में वी आर नॉट गोइंग, सो वी कैन गेट टू दिस डायरेक्टली. ओके, क्लियर है?
Okay. Yes, sir.
ठीक है. सो दिस इज द फिलिप्स कर्व. जस्ट टेक नोट ऑफ वन थिंग, जस्ट इन केस अगर आप कहीं और से रेफर करो तो माइट बी कंफ्यूजिंग. Inflation in general refers to the relative change in price. Okay, so it is basically ये वाला pt minus 1 by pt minus 1. ठीक है, just to simplify calculation we didn't take that because the moment I take this, ये आपका calculations थोड़ा extend करवा देगा. But ultimately, maybe if needed, I can show it to you later. that if you take this versus that, the equation का structure that you got will remain intact. That will not change. ठीक है? That will remain the same.
And sir, what is expectations augmented Phillips curve?
This one, जहाँ पे आपका expected inflation है system में, यही तो. अगर आपका expectation component है, it's the expectation augmented Phillips curve. अगर expectation नहीं है, then it's just the normal Phillips curve. ठीक है? That's the difference, nothing more than that.
Okay, sir.
All right. So it's clear, Harshita? Nothing more?
Yes, sir, clear for now. I'll try a
ठीक
few
है.
questions first.
Okay. ठीक है, चलो. So I'm stopping the screen share then. So you can disconnect, Harshita. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. And sir, please send this PDF also.
Okay, I'll send it to you.
Okay, thank you.